All right. So it's if we agree and if it's fine with that, wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, I mean, already the context is already set, and you know we are having a lot of crisis. I mean, not only Bangladesh, all the southern countries are facing a lot of crisis, and there is a whole issue of evolving a new global order, and we exactly don't know what would be the nature of this new global order, or the old order will sustain. However, the southern countries are going through a lot of uncertainties and crises, and those crises are also being like added with this climate crisis and economic recession and escalating conflicts in different parts of the world, and there is also tension of energy tension and also the price hike in all different countries. And within this context, within this very, very, very volatile, very uncertain context, I would like to take the privilege to ask the very first question to our Additional Secretary of Economic Relations Division, Ms. Marina Mahrouk. You know, like we are trying to graduate. LDC graduation will take place, and with this system, within this context, I mean, how, since you are responsible of mobilizing external aid, external resources, and that means you are actually dealing with a large part of the international partnership. So could you please elucidate the nation's strategic priorities to leverage international partnerships and fulfill its commitments under SDG 17?
Yes, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. Distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen, at the very beginning, I would like to thank the organizer for giving me the chance. And first of all, our Honorable Economic Affairs Advisor to the Honorable Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Dr. Mushir Rahman Sir. Then special guest, Mr. Muhammad Shahiduzzaman Sir. Our Chair, Mr. M.A. Mannan Sir. And our distinguished panelists, our development partners, friends from different development partners. Good afternoon. It's very, very tough, especially at this afternoon when everybody is very tired to hold the audience. But I believe today's topic and now what we are discussing is very pertinent, and it's a very timely issue. We are from Economic Relations Division. Actually, the crisis, the conflicts, what we are observing current now is totally, totally different than ever before. And at this moment, we are actually approaching for LDC graduation, and you all are aware that very soon we will be graduated. So obviously, we have lot of challenges. At the same time, we have some opportunities as well. It is actually imperative to say that the LDC graduation, by this graduation, we'll graduated from LDC country and will upgrade our status, but at the same time, we may lose some of the benefits also. Especially, we are talking about different financing strategies, and Bangladesh so far is very good in managing external resources, external financing. If you calculate or if you analyze our debt status or debt sustainability, you may find that we are very good at that. So far, Bangladesh doesn't have any instance for failure in loan repayment, and our overall government debt strategy, if you analyze, you may find that most of the loans that we secure for our different development projects, that is concessional in nature. However, there is a big but in this scenario, because after 2026, scenario will be different. Our concessional windows may close day by day. So we need to explore other ways. In this juncture, I must say that we need to focus more on market. We need to have our expertise in different concessional as well as non-concessional and commercial windows. So far I heard from our previous sessions, we observed that climate issue, it was addressed, and also green financing, that was a very important issue. So as the external resource division, we are focusing more on green financing. We are focusing more on different bonds. We are focusing more on different financing activities that is related to market. At this stage, I must focus more on our private sector. We need to focus, we need to work with them. PPP, you have already aware that Government of Bangladesh has established PPP authority. We have very good framework and we have established authority, they are working for that. So PPP could be another way to intervene in the market, and more importantly, with this financing scheme, we need to focus more on our trade also. Our development partners, they are here, so we have very good coordination with all of them. We are working together towards achieving these targets and goals, and we have actually different approaches. You all are aware about this. So we have been called as a development success case. You all know that by all of our development partners, economics, for very good reason. The government has worked tirelessly to carry forward the vision of Father of the Nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who envisioned a prosperous, poverty-free, equitable Bangladesh, guided by the principle of social justice, equal opportunity for all. Bangladesh has made sustainable and substantial strides in areas such as per capita income, life expectancy, literacy, gender equality, poverty alleviation, and infant mortality, making a journey characterized by resilience, progress, and ambition.
Madam Additional Secretary, I take the honor to intervene at this stage. I will come back to you again with a very specific question, that how Bangladesh is taking different initiatives, as you said, that approaches to manage the challenges. We'll come back to you, please.
Thank you very much.
So this time, maybe I should turn to one of our development partners, World Bank. So they have been with us with Bangladesh for a long time, long years. And then, you know, World Bank has invested in infrastructure development. They also invested a lot in human development, social development for many years in Bangladesh. And recently their investment portfolio also includes climate crisis as well. So there is a lot of appreciation, and of course, you know, World Bank's investment many times draw a lot of criticisms as well. So with this context, my question would be to our respected World Bank country director, that how is the World Bank aligning its investment priorities to support initiatives that promote sustainable development, resilience, and inclusive growth in Bangladesh? It's over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. It's working. Yeah. And I should say it's really a privilege, I think, to be part of this distinguished panel. And I'm so thankful for having been invited to speak before this audience. First of all, I would like to start by acknowledging and recognizing the progress that Bangladesh has achieved. I think for all of us in the field of development, clearly this is a country where we learn a lot from. I mean, as we go around the world, we look at how countries have made progress. Look at Bangladesh. I think you have a very distinguished economist from Bangladesh who wrote a book about the Ed Lab. And that tells a lot about all these stories, I think, how Bangladesh has done in terms of female labor force participation and so on. And yes, we have seen, of course, when it comes to poverty reduction, for instance, how the country has made all this progress. And the World Bank has been a very proud partner of Bangladesh over the years. We talk about last year we celebrated our 50th year of a partnership with Bangladesh, talking about how over the years we have contributed to this effort for over 40 billion of US dollars. We have a strong partnership going on. We acknowledge that, of course, the country is facing headwinds. And it's not alone. I mean, all countries around the world are facing those headwinds. I think the previous panel, we discussed a lot about some of these challenges, whether it is the financial sector strengths, whether it is about the fiscal side, whether it is about how indeed revenue should improve, domestic resource mobilization. You talk about climate risk. Clearly, all those challenges. And at the World Bank, what we try to do is to support Bangladesh across these challenges. On the reform side, absolutely, and that is very critical. Before I've been talking about even finance. Because what we do see is that what will make most difference in Bangladesh these days is really on the reform side. And so, yes, we have, you mentioned the support we have been able to provide so far, and that is going beyond Bangladesh. As all countries, for instance, were struggling with the aftermath of COVID and what to do, we have been able to structure the way we leverage our capital to be able to bring more financing. So we changed, for instance, our loan-to-equity ratio that has helped to bring in, along with some reforms on the guarantee side, hybrid capital investment. We have been able to mobilize about 157 billion more in lending capacity over a decade. And this has been done without compromising our AAA ratings. So what we do see, though, is that even with that, even with a greater support from our shareholders, it is very important to mobilize others. And others, I think, chiefly will include the private sector. Private sector around the world, private sector here in Bangladesh. What kind of reforms could happen in terms of business climate? What kind of reforms could happen in terms of macroeconomic stability that provide assurance and confidence to the private sector that you could invest? So these are the kind of reforms we are discussing, and hopefully we may see indeed the impact of this. I can elaborate more, but maybe at this stage
sure.
I can stop.
You will have one more chance. Okay. In fact, not one more chance. You will have more chances. That should be. Yeah, that's how we plan to go. Thank you, Mr. Abdullah Sek, Country Director, World Bank in Bangladesh. Thank you very much for your brilliant point. Well, this is World Bank has been there, of course, but international partnerships for sustainable development, which is goal 17 of SDG. That's not only talk about partnership in terms of finances or resource flow. It also talks about technology transfer. It also talks about capacity building, internal resource mobilization. So in those areas, we have also, Bangladesh also has the privilege to have a strong partnership with European Union as an entity, and also with the nation states or the member states of European Union. So now I would like to ask a very simple question, in fact, that question to elaborate on the particular point that with this crisis and like uncertainty and complex situation, EU, I mean, as a kind of a development partner, how this EU delegation planning to tailor its assistance and cooperation to support countries' sustainable development agenda, particularly with a special focus on human rights and democracy and opening up the civic space in Bangladesh.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for tailoring it so well, because I did receive a 15-page briefing from my colleagues in the EU delegation, so I'm happy you boiled it down to one issue, and it's a great delight to be on a panel with such distinguished guests. I think all roads, in terms of the EU's relationship with Bangladesh, lead to sustainable development. I mean, we like to call ourselves now a partner, not just a development partner, because the relationship is changing very quickly. But whether it be in our traditional development assistance, whether it be in our new global gateway assistance, or whether it be in our trade policy with Bangladesh, everything points towards sustainable development and fulfilling the SDGs in partnership with Bangladesh. And in parenthesis, I would say, of course, the EU itself is working on fulfilling the SDGs within our own borders. Every year we have an assessment by Eurostat about how well or badly we're doing, and the latest assessment last year said we have much work to do on issues like climate and biodiversity, doing better on issues like decent work. So every nation and every group of nations is struggling with this. But I would say with Bangladesh, we have very well-established priorities for our funding that's underway as a partner. Human development, education, skills development. The green transition is front and center of what we're doing in partnership with Bangladesh, and that tallies with what we're trying to do within our own borders to become climate neutral by 2050. And governance is the third key pillar of our work with Bangladesh. So I think it's important that we have consistency across our policies, and as the Honourable Additional Secretary mentioned, Bangladesh, as we all know, is graduating, will graduate. In EU terms, there's a transition period to 2029, but then we very much hope that there will be a smooth transition to GSP+. And that's, of course, not a simple duty-free, quota-free, no questions asked system. It is reliant on implementing, probably in the future, 32 conventions, be that human rights, governance, corruption, environmental standards, Paris Agreement, and so on. So it's a very structured and demanding system to ensure that Bangladesh continues to receive the duty-free access to the EU market, which remains collectively the largest market for Bangladesh. But we're not saying, oh, you have to do this on your own. It's a work in progress, and most of our funding now is supporting that transition. And I would just say Global Gateway, which is a new way of funding that the EU has, which is blending loans and grants, is about larger scale funding. So we have 400 million euros coming on stream through the European Investment Bank with a 50 million grant component for renewable energy. That's a new area for us, and I think this will be an interesting time to develop the partnership in this way, but making sure that we, on the trade front, on the development support front, and on this infrastructure support that we're bringing in, that all roads lead to the SDG fulfillment. So I'll stop there for now. Thank you.
Great, yes. That's really good to know that all roads lead to the accomplishment of SDG. I will come back to our Honorable Additional Secretary from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but a little later. Before that, I would like to go to a United Nations Resident Coordinator. You know, Bangladesh has been one of the very significant member of United Nations. Although it's a very, like a tiny country in the world politics, but it has been very active in the UN to promote partnership and also to leverage UN for building partnership that help Bangladesh to grow. So with this context, we have the privilege to have our honorable panelist here with Ewan Lewis, UN Resident Coordinator. So to you, like, I'm just, we'll be very happy to know, like, how do you envision the UN's partnership evolving in Bangladesh in the coming years, especially considering the changing global dynamics and emerging priorities, as already Madam identified some of them and other development partners already mentioned. Please.
Thank you very much. And again, I'm also honored to be part of this amazing panel and to have the distinguished guests here with us. I mean, Bangladesh's relationship with the United Nations, very similar to what we've already heard from our other colleagues, is very long-standing. This year we're celebrating 50 years of partnership with Bangladesh, and I think we're all looking forward to a number of celebrations this year to mark the occasion, and in particular because it's also a very important year for the UN as we move towards the Summit of the Future, and we think really about the importance of multilateral engagement and what the United Nations means in a very challenging time for the world. Really what we've seen, I think, in Bangladesh is an evolution of that partnership. There's a very big difference between the partnerships we saw in the early 1970s and what we've seen today. And how I would describe that is very much one of really evolving and being much more a partner in innovation and technical learning, and really a shift in terms of the service provision or what support Bangladesh needs. And obviously the way we work in the United Nations is very much in alignment with the planning of the government and the prioritization of the government, and sitting beside the Honourable State Minister for Planning, and I know that the 8th five-year plan and now the conversation around the 9th five-year plan will really be critical in terms of determining how we move forward. So what we're seeing is really more of a technical and advisory and support role. Maybe more concretely, just to give a couple of examples, I think whereas in the past maybe we would have helped support particular programs, now we would provide advice, and one recent example is the work with the Ministry of Labour, for example, on the employment injury scheme with the private sector. Nowadays we're not providing support, we're providing technical advice from different parts of the world and sharing that advice in order for Bangladesh and the private sector to enhance the work that's already going on, or the work that's being ongoing in terms of fighting AIDS, tuberculosis and malaria, and Bangladesh is integrating those programs and those services within the Ministry of Health and the health sector, and we're able to offer advice and support. I think 2026 has already been touched on as a very big year for Bangladesh as the country graduates from LDC status. And so how we can work to support thinking through the transition to make sure that graduation is as smooth as possible, and how we can enhance and provide technical skills and innovation. But I think most also as importantly is Doha this year, when the LDC countries come together, will be an opportunity to also showcase the learning that Bangladesh has to share, and the technical support and advice that the country can bring to other countries who are not so further down the track on graduation. So maybe just to summarize, I think it's very much an evolving partnership, and that evolution is also based on some of the conversations and the prioritizations that we're seeing across the government, and the changing context we're living in.
Thank you, and we appreciate that evolution of the relationship between UN and Bangladesh as well. Well, let me go to His Excellency's Ambassador of China in Bangladesh. You know, China has been like one of our great partners. Particularly, we see their partnership in investment in infrastructure projects, and that's one of the prominent presence what we see in recent years. So with that, and with this overall context as we have already outlined, so my question, that humble question would be that how does China plan to balance economic development with environmental sustainability to ensure the infrastructure projects that contribute positively to Bangladesh's sustainable development? Always there is a kind of a tension between infrastructure and, please, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's my honor to be invited to attend this seminar together with all these prominent panelists. And as also, we prepare a long speech where you save me. It's very good questions. We all know that China, we are proud to be development partners who have been dealing together with Bangladesh to have set up so many landmark projects like Panama Bridge, the Bandung Sheikh Mujibur Rahman tunnels, and the exhibition halls in Dhaka. But I believe our cooperation go beyond only projects. Our project is people-centered. Well, in view of the common development of China and Bangladesh. So the purpose is not a project, it's to make the people benefit from our cooperation. So aside from projects, China, our companies, our enterprises, extensively partnered with Bangladesh for all the economic cooperation and investment cooperations. So we have a lot of projects not only in infrastructure building, but also on power plant building. I have figured, around now is the summer, it's the peak time for power consumption of Bangladesh. And you know what? Now the power plants built by Chinese company contribute 20% of power consumption by Bangladesh. So that is demonstrate our contribution. And beyond that, we also have cooperation on science technology, on the environment protection, on the education skill development. We'll do whatever we can to work with along Bangladesh for the greater vision of the smart Bangladesh. So you just mentioned, you know, now there's some saying, there's a new 3 contributor China is making for international environmental protection. One is solar panel. China is the largest producer of solar panel in the world. The other is EV, electronic vehicles. So 100% electric driven the cars. China also the #1. Last year we export almost 4 million EVs to the world. And third one is the battery, the lithium battery. China also the largest producer, all related to the climate adaptation and reduce the greenhouse gas. So in view of the future of Bangladesh, now we are working, we are trying to urge as much as Chinese investment as possible in these new areas. So that is, I believe, is new contribution China has made for sustainable development of Bangladesh. Now, also you see the solar power, the plants, and China is working to set up the first ever the battery company or manufacturing manufacturing plant in Bangladesh. And we are trying to introduce the first ever the EV assembly line in Bangladesh. So that is what we are going to do. But one thing I also need to encourage Bangladesh. Bangladesh need to come out with a more mechanized, comprehensive policy as to introduce this new techniques and these new industries. For example, for EV, so far Bangladesh haven't come out with a comprehensive policy. So whether if China or other the stakeholders introduce EV into Bangladesh, what sort of the preferential treatment they can join? It's not so much clear. So we're encouraging Bangladesh to come out. So we're going to work together to make Bangladesh at the centerpiece in the future, at least in South Asia, as the driving force for adoption of economic change and to have green industries set up in Bangladesh. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for giving us some good news. And of course, Bangladesh, Bangladesh has already, we have made a Mujib Prosperity Plan, Mujib Climate Prosperity Plan, in which we have very great, ambitious, to some extent, green transition plan. And let's see how we can leverage the partnership with China to achieve that green energy transition. Now I would like to go to our Foreign Office, Mr. Additional Secretary, Dr. Nozrul Islam, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Bangladesh. As you see, our development partners are, they have different strategies and they are taking different measures. And all those relations are actually being channeled through diplomatic missions, and this is your office. So what is your plan? What actually our Ministry of Foreign Affairs are equipping them or prioritizing their activities to leverage these international partnerships? It's over to you, sir.
Thank you. At the outset, I would like to congratulate Dhaka University, Department of Development Studies, for organizing this international seminar conference. And today's session's chief guest, Honorable Economic Affairs Advisor to Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Mashur Rahman, and Chair of the session, Mr. M.A. Mannan, former Planning Minister, and Honorable State Minister for Planning, and distinguished panelists. As you rightly pointed out, that how Foreign Office is leveraging to have international partnership given the context. And certainly Sustainable Development Goals is very challenging one for many countries in the South, including Bangladesh. But we are happy that our Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, she has been in the helm of the governance of the country for last 15 years plus. And as per the vision of our founding father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, she is delivering the aspirations of people. And that's why her foreign policy dictum, it is friendship to all, malice towards none. That is our founding father of the nation's foreign policy. And I come to the point what my colleague from ERD and development partners like World Bank, European Union, and Chinese ambassador, and also UN resident coordinator, they spoke about their priorities and issues. And I'm happy to inform you that Bangladesh Foreign Office, over our 81 overseas missions, we are relentlessly working towards achieving those targets. Particularly, we are very mindful of LDC graduation in 2026 November. And beyond that, there will be, as additional secretary from ERD was telling, that it is a challenge for Bangladesh because many constitutional things will not be there. Duty-free access will not be there. But we are hopeful that additional period of 3 years we are getting, as well as we are negotiating with individual countries. And you will be happy that middle of this month, we are having economic partnership agreement, first round of negotiation with Japan. And with our neighboring countries and also with People's Republic of China as their development partner, as Chinese ambassador was telling. And Ambassador Charles, he also mentioned about some critical issues of governance, human development, and climate change issues, green technology. And I am happy to inform that with European Union, Bangladesh will be having already started last October. Our Honorable Prime Minister, she was in Brussels and launched that partnership cooperation agreement with European Union. So this is in as a block, we are negotiating with them. Apart from that, bilaterally we are also. And I'm happy to inform that you know that in different media it came out that USA, there were some sort of commotion was there, but I'm happy to inform that recently they have expressed their interest to have very robust partnership with government of Bangladesh, and we are working on that. And as Ms. Lewis, she was telling that we will be having 50 years of our membership at the United Nations. So end of this year, we will be celebrating with the United Nations. And there are many things we are working through United Nations channel. And World Bank country representative is here, country director, and with World Bank we have a solid partnership, as well as other regional banks like Asian Development Bank and others, and Asian infrastructure investment banks, and also a new development bank under BRICS. So Bangladesh actually, you have seen that Qatari Amir was in Dhaka. So in Middle Eastern front, we have, beyond our manpower issues, we are also dealing with trade and investment issues. So in coming days, our challenge will be have market access, trade promotion and also FDI attraction. So these two fronts, actually, apart from political issues, we are in the Foreign Office dealing with these economic diplomacy issues. So I am very much pleased that our overseas missions, ambassadors, and our colleagues in the missions, they are working day and night for promotion of our international partnership with our international development partners and bilaterally as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, dear audience, it's now your turn. So you are free to ask any question to our very distinguished panelist. This is the first round of question I would like to take from the audience. If you have any question, please feel free to ask this question in Bangla or in English or whatever, not whatever, like Bangla or English, of course. So please feel free. If there is any question from our colleagues, from our students, participants, please. Any question? Oh, that. Yes, there is a question. Okay, please. Microphone. Who is there? কে প্রশ্ন করবে? প্লিজ এই আপনি চলে আসেন, এই কাছে চলে আসলে যদি আমরা একটু কষ্ট করে তাহলে মাইক্রোফোনটা আমরা দুজনে শেয়ার করতে পারি। জি একটু তাড়াতাড়ি প্লিজ। জি আপনার পরিচয় দেন দিয়ে প্লিজ প্রশ্নটা করুন।
Salim Syed, I'm a film expert. I live in England. I used to work as a director for Al Jazeera Television. But I'm not here for any media purpose. I'm just visiting the country. I never heard about this program and I just came. I don't know, and I had to briefly taught at Dhaka University and London University. And I briefly studied economics and philosophy and political science, apart from film and cultural studies. So that's my background. I don't know whether my question is out of context or not, but what I feel my question would be particularly to the Honorable State Minister and the advisor to the Prime Minister. Well, what you have been doing is great and extraordinary, and this is a process, and the process will be once established and developed, and we'll see the result of it. But I think one very underlying issue is somehow missing in this program, that is the cultural aptitude. For establishing or developing any economic project or human resource, a nation really need a right kind of mental aptitude. It's simply like if someone has a car, if he doesn't know how to drive a car, he cannot drive. Or even if he knows how to drive a car, if he doesn't know where to go, then he will end up going nowhere. But I think this country is seriously lacking a cultural aptitude for development. So how will you work with that? How will you leverage and include or integrate it within the development process?
Do you have any specific example?
Yeah, this is the example. The overall, well, I think if you go for that, well, culture is a very big term.
All right. Yes, we got the question.
Specifically, it's about...
Thank you, gentlemen. So, would you like to respond? Anybody? Okay, yeah, that's like a big comment, less of question. All right, thank you. Anybody? Yes, last. Yes, oh, yes, please. We'll come back to you. Oh, okay, go over there, please. Yeah, ঠিক আছে. It's closer. Please.
Just a very short question. For the LDC graduation by 2026, there are so many risks that we are anticipating. My question to you, what are the risk financing strategy of Bangladesh government? There should be something there. And how the development partners you are interacting each other to support this and make it a possible one that we can really graduate from the LDC.
Maybe this question would be answered by our Honorable Economic Advisor to the Honorable Prime Minister. All right, so the last question from this round. Yes. Quickly, this is the last one, yeah.
All right.
Go ahead, please.
So my question is basically about the governance aspect. I understand the EU delegation was talking about that. So my specific question is in terms of working on the governance aspect. As we know in the context of the country, there is a shrinking space challenge is being faced by the civil society organizations, specifically the organizations that works on rights or rights-based issues. So I'm just wondering, and EU was talking about that, and probably UN is also interested in working with the rights-based organizations. In terms of this challenge these organizations are facing, what is kind of the plan of the development partners in working with them, and what is the strategy to sort of engage them in the development and the policy process of the country? Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to respond right now? Please. Yes, sir.
It's on the microphone. Thank you for the question. I mean, we engage day in, day out with all walks of society in Bangladesh, be it civil society, be it key institutions that are instrumental in upholding governance. I mean, we support civil society through what we call calls for proposals. So we have regular calls for proposals, and there'll be another one coming along in May. So we have a competitive process, but we invite civil society to apply for those funds. And I hope that that can make a contribution to strengthening civil society, and we do that around the world. It's not just, of course, in Bangladesh, and it's part of our engagement with the government as well, including on court reform and so on. So it is definitely in the frame of our relations, and definitely in the frame of working towards fulfilling the conditions for GSP+.
Thank you. Thank you. Since we do not have many questions from the audience, but I do. So this is the last round of questions to our very esteemed panelists. Again, I would like to go to Madam Additional Secretary. To you, like already you have already outlined that what is the situation and how we are planning. But at this stage, I mean, what are the challenges you see, the challenges where our development partners particularly can contribute? Is there any particular set of challenges you see in dealing with this transition and seamless transition to post-LDC situation where our development partners have niche capacity to contribute us? Please.
Yes, thank you very much. Actually, I have already mentioned some of the issues, but to be very particular, for this LDC graduation, obviously that is an issue. And most importantly, at this current economic scenario. So along with this LDC graduation, this current economic scenario also itself is a challenge. And for that, we are actually approaching our development partners, especially the multilateral development partners. World Bank is here, UN is here, EU also here. So we would like to mention that we have already approached our development partner to extend their concessional financing. Usually for LDC graduation, after 2026, scenario could be different, and there is a certain transition period. But we have already approached for extending the transition period. Considering this current economic scenario, World Bank and other development partners, because it's SOFR based and you know the rate. So we have already approached them to revisit or sometimes reconsider the terms and issues and other things for us. And here, His Excellency, the Chinese ambassador is here. We have already approached them to consider some of the issues like extend the loan period, sometimes considering the concessionality of loan like management fees, some other upfront fees and other things. So we are pursuing with all of them. And with multilateral development partner, we are also engaging with bilateral partners. And we are inviting more and more development partners in our area. Like, I am very happy to mention you that even last year, we have partnership with Korea only for 500 to 700 million. But this year, we are able to manage it or increase it by 5 billion. So we'll have this sort of partnerships, and we are trying to securing the framework agreement for a longer period so that we can minimize the challenges during the transition period. Along with this, we are also talking with Japan. Even last year, their rate of interest was a bit higher, but this year, they are actually considering this scenario, and it's a bit lower for this quarter. And we are very thankful to China also. They are also revisiting their areas, and hopefully in near future, Sitka, they have already assured us the interest rate will be lower and the loan maturity period will be higher for new projects. For our another development partner, India, we are also going for new framework agreement where some of the project could be shifted to get the full moratorium period. And we are pursuing with our UN organizations, EU, and other development partners to secure more climate funding. And our approach that we are actually not contributing country, rather we are the most victim of climate financing. But if you look into the scenario, some of the assistance given for climate finance in the form of loan rather than grants. So we are actually raising our voice for this issue that as we are not the contributor, we are only the victims. So please reconsider the areas and give us more assistance, concessional assistance, and also in the form of grant to increase our adaptation and other resilience thing. And for this crisis, you are all aware that IMF, they are already with us, and we are going for a lot of reforms. So we are actually approaching most of our development partners, just foreseeing the next 5 to 10 years for this transition period. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. So the main point is like you are looking for long-term framework agreement and concessional long-term loan and also climate financing. These are the three major blocks. And maybe with this, I would like to go to the last round question to World Bank, that like how and where exactly World Bank could really help Bangladesh to achieve the focus already our external relations divisions have identified.
No, thanks. First of all, I think this is a very good point that we heard, and I will totally agree when it comes, for instance, to climate finance. Certainly, that is an area where we should be supporting Bangladesh as much as possible. The country, I think, it does not really contribute a lot to global greenhouse emissions, but of course are suffering a lot from this. And we do have a large engagement on this, on this front with Bangladesh. Working with ITCOL and so on. I mean, there is already, I think, active engagement of Bangladesh when it comes to tapping carbon markets. Now, I will try to be, I guess, not provocative, but I really appreciate the effort that Bangladesh is doing when it comes to external debt. Extremely low, actually, like 16% of GDP. Now, the point I'm trying to make is the following. The country has done well, extremely well. Today, per capita income of about $3,000 US. And there are opportunities for the country to reach very quickly to the upper middle income country status. And by 2031, and perhaps by 2041, reaching the status of a rich country. That would require to grow at a very strong pace, high pace. Right now, our estimate is that the country basically grows around a little bit less than 6%. That will fall short of these goals that are really, in our view as the World Bank, is achievable. But the country will need to grow faster. If that is the case, perhaps it would be important to broaden the range of financing instruments the country should be looking at. I really acknowledge, and I think it is a good thing for ERD and at Bangladesh to look at concessional financing, but there is not much of it out there. I mentioned earlier all the effort being done to mobilize the concessional financing, but there is a time when a country will be looking at what will it take to become a rich country. Let me just give you a few examples. Let's say today in Bangladesh, policies that abate both air pollution and emission could save nearly 1 million lives by 2030. That has cost. And I think it's important to mobilize the financing with terms that are basically consistent with the kind of impact the country could benefit from. I take, for instance, this investment being discussed these days at Chattogram. We had a very good launch of the National Logistic Policy, fantastic initiative led by the Prime Minister Office. And right now, the way the Bangladesh trades, you look at how you have this congestion cost around at Chattogram port. With the Bay terminal, the country could save $1 million a day, just because the boats, ship coming can actually move faster. So all I'm trying to say is that perhaps it's important to, for Bangladesh, I think, to invest into areas that will bring the sustainability part, reduce pollution. Air pollution is a big concern. Improve the quality of life, livability in big cities, and that may require financing that are not necessarily concessional.
Okay.
So that is the point I will try to make.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's not a good news anyway, but let's see how we can explore. Yes, we have a question from the audience, although that part was closed, but okay, it's always there is a chance to engage the audience. You can start. Yes, please, go ahead. Would you like to take this one?
How do you want to characterize the relationship between US and China in an evolving global order, and how does that impact the region? And then another very simple question is that, do you think there are multiple forms of democracy? And is the Western liberal order is backtracking? And the third question is very simple one, is do you at all believe that SDGs will be achieved by 2030? Thank you.
So all these questions related with beliefs, is it? Okay. Short, very short. Okay.
Thank you. I think I'm taking a very different role. We always try to hold our policymakers accountable in such seminars and conferences. But today, I want to hold our development partners accountable. As a country that was born out of a glorious liberation war, where millions were taking refuge in India, we know the pain and suffering of refugees. And we know that Bangladesh is hosting millions of refugees. And today, I want to get a commitment from our partners from UN, EU, and His Excellency the Chinese Ambassador, that will you explicitly commit to make safe return and repatriation of the Rohingya refugees a priority? And if so, in the next Development Studies Conference next year, will we be seeing tangible results through your negotiation and your influence? Thank you.
Thank you, Abid. Thank you very much. Well, I mean, still we are moving in the space of normative, so we are talking about beliefs and then commitment. All right, that's not a bad idea. So, esteemed panelist, would you like to, please just feel free to respond if anyone to respond to this question, Okay, you will have the chance to respond on your turn. All right, thank you. Just again, just to close this session, of course, I would like to give one more chance to our esteemed panelists from EU and then United Nations, and of course, it will go to His Excellency's Chinese Ambassador too. So for the even the last round of question, maybe for this time. I mean, of course, you have the privilege to respond to any of the questions coming from the audience. At the same time, I mean, to you, like, what are some of the main challenges you see in effectively utilizing this support, like the one already we have, and the way we are planning to achieve these sustainable development goals? Although our colleagues have said that whether you do believe that we can achieve this by 2030, but, well, if not, then what? If, then how? So how to materialize, how to use all those offers, resources, what are available, and what are the challenges you see? Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. I'm going to maybe touch on some of the questions. I won't answer them all because I'm not going to talk about US-Chinese geopolitics when the Chinese ambassador is on the panel with me. But I think they're all very important questions. And reaching the 2030 goals is not only a challenge for Bangladesh, it's a challenge for this region, and it's a challenge for the world. And we have seen a slowdown of progress across the board. And so we are very behind on our targets, clearly. And I think we have a lot more to do. And one very key example, which is critical, and Abdullah has also already touched on it, which is around climate and climate adaptation and mitigation. We haven't just slowed down, we're moving in the wrong direction. We've lost ground on some of the indicators. So there's really a lot to do. And I think one aspect and one of the questions that was asked is how can we do better? I think policy is key, and changing some of the conversations and putting in place strong policies is a very important one. Important initiative that has happened over the last week is the climate partnership that the Office of the Prime Minister has put in place, which is really aimed at bringing together development financing in an integrated and a prioritized way behind the government, because we need to work in a more structured and systematic and prioritized way and increase the level of financing. But we also need to think through, and this touches on the question I think my colleague from civil society raised, about how we do that. And we're not going to be successful in achieving that unless we really build on locally led adaptation, unless we take the views of people with disabilities, young people in this country, indigenous communities, and really bring those on board and make sure they're integrated into the policy and the implementation so that there's ownership, because people on the ground know best what their communities need. So it really needs a concerted approach, and so we don't promote particular form of government in the UN, but we do talk a lot about leaving no one behind, and that's what that means, and really moving past just talking about transforming education, not only announcing that universal healthcare is a priority for Bangladesh, but really involving local communities to define what that means is really going to be what makes the change. I want to just touch a little bit on the Rohingya refugees, because I think it's a very important issue. You all know that the situation in Myanmar and Rakhine in particular is absolutely devastating at the moment. People are again trying to flee the country, and the resulting insecurity is permeating and is having impacts on the communities living along the border inside Bangladesh, but also on the Rohingya. As the UN, we will and continue to commit to supporting Bangladesh in hosting close to 1 million people. But there needs to be a political solution. And the states that are involved are the ones that can offer a political dialogue and a political solution. So putting it at the feet of the UN is really not feasible or manageable. And I think I would like to see more engagement, whether it's across the region or globally, to solve what has become a very intractable and violent conflict, and that is having an impact not only on the people in Myanmar, but also in Bangladesh. Thank you.
Thank you. So, yes, I guess the audience is waiting to listen the reflection on that U.S.-China relationship. But again, well, so it led me to go to His Excellency's Chinese ambassador first, or of course, anybody can answer to this question. But in addition to what Abir has already said, in fact, I would also like to stress on that very point that considering that China's growing role in the global affairs and the region, and including its Belt and Road Initiative, and how does China envision its partnership with Bangladesh and evolving to address regional challenges, including Rohingya crisis, while fostering sustainable development? Please.
So Professor Titomir asked a very, very challenging question to me. Actually, it's not related to today's topic, but actually, I guess it gives me chances to speak for, which were very critical. We know China is the largest developing country. U.S. is the largest developed country. And China relations with the U.S. serve as the most important relations in the world. It will determine the future of the mankind. But definitely there's no denying that we're at a difficult point. But the thing is, China, we are always persistent. As a development country, China, we want stable relations. We want to have normal relations with U.S. And China, we are striving for our rights as developing country for development. So our policy based on three pursuits, which is a normal and very basic pursuit. One is we want our relation is based on mutual respect. The second one is on the peaceful coexistence. And third one is for win-win cooperation. So that is our pursuit. But now for U.S., there's one question they have to consider. Whether they consider China as an opportunity for the world or for its own development, or consider a threat to its national security. Whether China, as with development, will have rights to development and survival. That is the very critical questions. So now you see, there's a lot of discussion about on U.S. They don't want to contain China. They want to develop normal relations with China. But on the other hand, they take so many measures to contain China, scientifically, technologically, and they have so many sanctions. You know, for the Biden authority, so far, within less than 5 years, more than 1,500 Chinese companies are already in the different list of the sanctions. So how come? You know, I don't understand why China to be treated like this. Like Huawei, which is very successful and is contributed so much for Bangladesh, for telecommunication. It is also on the blacklist. I don't know. So far, they didn't come up with any concrete proof that Huawei poses national threats to U.S. So China, we are ready. We will do whatever we could to normalize relations with U.S. But U.S. have considered. And the second one, I believe, is very critical, is the Taiwan issue. Whether they really respect their commitment. During the time our establishment of relations, there's commitment on U.S. side that they acknowledge both sides consider they're part of China. So that is a commitment. But now it seems they are going away from that commitment. So that's something US have to consider. But anyway, it is still my hope and expectations that for the better future of the mankind, for the better future of the world order, US will respect China. And we have a lot of consensus, meetings among the leaders. There's a sort of a decision that we will continue our cooperation. These decisions and consensus can be materialized. And we really want to see a normal and stabilized China-Bangladesh relation, since it's not only related to the future of both countries, but also related to the future of the world. And the second one, regarding the repatriation of the Rohingyas, we fully sympathize the sacrifice and the cost paid by the Bangladesh side, and thanks for the brave decision by Honorable Prime Minister there to shelter the almost 1 million Rohingyas coming over to the Bangladesh. And you have taken extra efforts to provide them basic needs together with international donors and international communities. But it cannot last forever. We have to find a solution. And the only solution is repatriation. So China, we always play our role. I can tell you, last year, we faced historical opportunity to start with the pilot project, or the first batch of repatriation. We have worked very closely with Bangladesh and Myanmar. And I can tell you, as ambassador to Bangladesh, half of my time, energy spent on repatriation. But something is beyond our capacity. That is the conflict inside Myanmar, especially in Rakhine states. So the situation has dramatically changed, and the warfare is still carrying on. So for the repatriation, the topmost concern is safety. It is a #1 precondition. So we have ensured the repatriation based on safety, on dignity, and it will be a sustainable one. So we have now we have to wait for the end of the conflict. And China will play our role. We are already working on both sides. I mean, either from Myanmar side or the ethnic minority armed group. We are working on them. We're trying to bring them together on negotiations to find political solution. Our efforts is carrying on. We see some positive development, but it is far from enough to realize a ceasefire, especially in Rakhine states. I believe China will play our share, but our efforts is not enough. We need the common joint efforts by all the stakeholders, including United Nations, including other partners. So it is the task faced by all of us. So hopefully, with our joint efforts, we can see the ceasefire take place inside Myanmar sometime this year, which paved the way so we can restart all the efforts for the repatriation. So in spite of difficulties, China will never hesitate. China will never falter. China will carry on to push forward repatriation. Thank you.
Thank you. So we are also hoping for their safe and dignified repatriation. Well, I'm just referring to the reflection from even resident coordinator that she is the one who brought in the issue of indigenous community and the issue of young people in today's discourse. So, and I would like to add two more things. One is research and development, which is also essential for the seamless transition and the post-LDC situation for Bangladesh, and the capacity building. So with those four focus area, I would like to know from the EU delegation that, do you consider these four issues within your priority, particularly for extending your support to Bangladesh? And if and if there is any kind of specific programs or commitment you make on these issues for indigenous community, youth, and also like capacity building and research and development.
Yeah, I mean, they're all threaded through our programs. We have the Erasmus Mundus program, which works with universities, and I'm very happy to say Bangladesh sends the third largest number of students to Europe every year through our scholarship scheme. There are research programs with Bangladesh, of course, youth programs, and we do work with indigenous communities. I think there were some very excellent questions from the floor, slightly provocative, and we could have a full seminar on some of the points raised. I wanted to come back on, is Western liberal order in decline? I think not just whether it's a question of Western liberal order, but democracy itself is under threat around the world. And as Thomas Jefferson famously said, price of freedom is eternal vigilance. I think all democracies, whether it be Bangladesh or the European Union, are facing some pretty severe threats, whether that be the toxic side of the internet, misinformation, disinformation, foreign interference in elections is a very big issue for us. We're looking towards the European Parliament elections that will happen between 6th and 9th of June this year, one of the largest democratic exercises in the world, around 400 million people eligible to vote in those elections. And the familiar pattern of threats is emerging as we approach those elections. And democracy needs protection all the time from hostile forces. And I think we're doing our best in partnership also with countries like Bangladesh to meet those challenges and to try to ensure that extremism doesn't get a foothold in Europe, because of course we have parties that are inclined towards more extremist positions that will be contesting those elections. I wanted to come back on the Rohingya issue because we're also very much in lockstep with the government of Bangladesh on that, and as the Chinese ambassador mentioned, and as the UN resident coordinator mentioned, the key principle is voluntary, safe and dignified return. We all subscribe to that. When I was posted in New York negotiating the first resolution on the Rohingya crisis with the OIC, with Bangladesh, that language was in the first resolution, and we still stick by that language. But as we all know, the situation on the Myanmar side is getting worse, not getting better. Rohingya are being forcibly recruited. It's one example of the dangers they're now facing on the other side of the border. So while we await the conditions becoming ripe for return, and we all believe in return, we have to make sure there's adequate support financially, politically, policy-wise for the government of Bangladesh and the refugees, and that's why the EU is maintaining its extensive funding through our humanitarian office for the refugees, and why we'll continue to maintain that and call on others to increase their funding, because others, closer to this country could be doing more in terms of funding and supporting the refugees and the local communities pending that voluntary return. So I think we're all on the same page with that. It's a question of how we get there and the geopolitical realities that are prevailing at the present time. Thanks.
Thank you. We are at the very end of this part almost. Before I hand it over to our special guest, chief guest and the chair, just for the last round to our Minister of Foreign Affairs. So would you like to reflect on these issues, particularly the one of what you have already listened from the audience and from the distinguished panelists?
Thank you. Just I would like to add with my colleague from Economic Relations Division that apart from concessional things, we have to try for market access, and that's why free trade agreement and EPA and other things, SEPA, we need to have collaborate with countries, those who are importing our goods, and also capacity building, one of the priority areas, because it relates to our agricultural transformation, food security, so capacity building and also governance issues. And third pillar, I think, climate change issues. A lot of, I don't want to elaborate. We know that it is a whole long debate on climate change issues. And we need to get support from developed countries as they committed in Paris Agreement, but yet to be realized. So Bangladesh is looking forward to that. And fourth issues is that we need to have one kind of, WTO and other international bodies where we need to have their support, particularly WTO and like a partner like World Bank and Asian Development Bank, and even certainly they are collaborating in different issues. And in regard to Professor Titumir's actually last question, and I don't dare to answer first two questions, but third one, sustainable development goals, actually given the COVID-19 and also Ukraine-Russia war and global economic scenario, it has, facing a lot of challenges. So, we are hopeful. Our Honorable Prime Minister has announced that a smart Bangladesh by 2041, a smart economy, a smart society, a smart government, and smart citizens. So, keeping that in mind, and also LDC graduation in one window in 2026 and 2030 sustainable development goals. So it may be deferred. It not be that much easy to achieve that. But certainly with international development partners' assistance, we can do much better. And last point, I would acknowledge the support of international partners like UN and World Bank and European Union, and obviously our Chinese ambassador who said about Rohingya issues. And right now, actually, we need not only talks, we need real support. We are getting, and our Honorable Prime Minister is getting international accolade for her magnanimity and humanity for human beings. And she gave shelter to these people, 1.2 million. But when they will be returning, yes, we know that it would be sustainable and voluntary and also conducive environment over there. But recently, we know that what is happening inside Rakhine State. But we are hopeful with the support of international community and particularly our neighbors, India and China, and also other international players. If we can start repatriation process, as Chinese ambassador was saying that yes, repatriation is the only solution, and we believe so. And Mr. Abir, who was saying that yes, we can solve this problem, certainly that will help us, Bangladesh, achieving sustainable development goals, because it is a burden on Bangladesh. Already it is a hugely 170 million population. We are facing our own challenges. So it is a big burden on Bangladesh. So we are hopeful of early solution of that Rohingya issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now at this stage, may I request Mr. MD Shahiduzzaman Sarkar MP, Honorable State Minister, Ministry of Planning, Government of Bangladesh, to have your deliberation. You can speak from there, or you can also take that dais over there as well. Please, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Honorable Chair, Honorable Chief Guest, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. It is a great honor for me to be here. I'm very much proud of it. I would like to thank the organizer of this great occasion. One thing, today I am here not to say something. I am here to listen and hear, to gather some knowledge, and I would like to express my feelings that through this occasion, through this seminar, I could gather some knowledge which will be help for me in future. You know, I resumed my office only before 2 months. So, it is very early to say something. One thing I would like to convey, I would like to confirm that we have a vision under our great leader, Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. And you know, our great leader, father of the nation, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, deemed a Bengal which is very synonymous to Sonar Bangla. And this is our motto through achieve our honorable leader, Sheikh Hasina, which is dreamed by our great leader, Sheikh Hasina, Sonar Bangla. We are working together, and inshallah, our nation, fought a deadly fight of liberation war, and we got liberated through a deadly war. The nation who is fought against a very crucial fight of liberation war and won this fight, and so we are very much optimistic view that we can achieve all our targets and all our goals, including SDGs, and not only SDGs. We have a 5-year plan, we have a Delta plan, and so on. We have many other plans. Inshallah, we will achieve our plan, and after hearing, after listening your discussion, it will help me a lot to accrue some knowledge, and through knowledge, inshallah, I would like to talk more after any other session, any other conference. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Our deep appreciation and acknowledgement for your presence and for your reflection. Thank you so much, sir. It is now time for the chief guest, and we are really, really privileged to have Dr. Mashiur Rahman, Honorable Economic Affairs Advisor to the Honorable Prime Minister of Bangladesh. So it's over to you, sir. Please.
I appreciate the Development Studies Department of Dhaka University for organizing such an impressive international conference. And I convey my regards to the distinguished panelists. I was trying to learn, and in that process I sort of jot down too many points. I don't know if I have time to respond to that. One is Bangladesh is graduating to LMIC, low middle income country. That puts us on a plane which is different from and higher than what we have been on so far. And it also brings new challenges and new ways of doing things. Two important things are from aid dependence, it is time for us to shift to trade dependence. Aid conditions become more difficult. I will come to that later if I have time. But in terms of trade, as the time comes for us to have much larger access to export market, it seems that the conditions for accessing those markets become a little more complex. If the conditions were primarily economic, that was one set of conditions that could be measured and that could be met, or there could be more specific judgment as to the extent of failure. But what has happened is the conditions also link with non-economic parameters, which are very difficult to measure and very difficult to pass definitive judgment on. For instance, democracy. We love democracy as much as anyone else, and I guess we have a very strong record of having sacrificed our lives for independence and for setting up a democracy. The democracy also meant rights for every citizen, and also, in some sense, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman recognized that rights is not only within the state boundaries, but is also has applications abroad. So these are difficult concepts, and there is no very precise standard to measure that. The second thing is the focus on the private sector. The private sector is important because that is the engine of growth, if the private sector grows, then the government also can collect more tax revenues. Government's capacity for public expenditure and outlays on welfare can increase. So the private sector has to grow, and the government has to look at the possibilities of mobilizing resources for the private sector. That also requires that the private sector becomes more efficient and more accountable and more responsible. 8 conditions are, as we transit to LMIC, we lose access to concessional credit. The ERD official has said that we have already made request for extension of the concessional period. However, from late 1996, we became a blend country for Asian Development Bank. I do not know if World Bank also has pushed us into the blend. So if it is a blend country, we can still access concessional loan, but there is also a part which is market linked. So the average cost, weighted average cost goes up unless we can contract agreements for financing larger projects which are eligible for concessional loan. Infrastructure is an important thing, and what has happened is, as I see that in the financial market, the 2 innovations recently are the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank and New Development Bank. These are the 2 additions. But they say that they would follow the best practices of the multilateral agencies which have been functioning so far, and they would also have connection with them in terms of co-financing, in terms of parallel financing, and so on. So it seems to me that by and large, AIIB would follow the practices. That practices are designed to protect the value of the money that they have, and also get a high rating so that they can mobilize or they can borrow on the financial market at a favorable rate. If they are not as good as the other multilateral agencies which also raise money on the market, they may have to pay a higher interest rate, and therefore they cannot expand their portfolio with respect to the agencies that they want to set up. Now there is one interesting thing. AIIB and NDB, they focus on infrastructure. They focus on infrastructure, and there is a significant difference between the approaches that World Bank and ADB they follow, and the approach that it seems to me AIIB, NDB, and China also endorse. World Bank and Asian Development Bank, they focus on infrastructure, social development, social institutions, and so on. But the other lenders, they focus on infrastructure, and they do argue very persuasively that if the infrastructural bottlenecks are not addressed, whatever you do not get the result. You might be investing money, but you don't get the result. Therefore, it is important that we remove the infrastructure bottlenecks. China comes in there as a very sensible, large player. I say large player because China has a huge export surplus, and they need to find market where this surplus can be invested either by direct investment or by lending to sovereign borrowers or to others with sovereign guarantee. Now, apparently, the supply of finances have increased. But does it mean that a country will go on borrowing as much as it wants to? or as much as it is on offer? Well, the opinion would differ. The World Bank and IMF have a debt sustainability framework, and periodically they assess the debt sustainability limit of a country, and they also indicate some kind of notional limit, not that they insist on going by that. It's a kind of warning that you may not, it is not in your interest to borrow further or borrow too much. So there's a kind of warning. In the last 3 or 4 years, continuously Bangladesh has been graded in the medium level. And our limitation on borrowing is on 2 counts. One is we fall short in terms of revenue collection, and we fall short in terms of export. So if we can increase our export and if we can increase our revenue collection, then we can also borrow more. As of now, we are not at the bottom. We are not at a situation where there is a debt distress. We are far above that debt distress limit. We can still continue to borrow more. There are some people who are scared about the limit of borrowing, and they raise hue and cry that we are paying so much, we are repaying so much. I guess the important point there is to look at the investment. If the investment is good, then the borrowed money pays for itself. And there is no reason why a country should deny itself the growth momentum if it can be achieved by sensible financing and good investment. Now, OECD has also revised its rules. It has raised the interest rate, and it has shortened the period and raised the discount rate for middle-income countries. I think it is about 5 or so, and for low-income countries it's 10%, 20 years, and so on. So the terms for borrowing getting stiff, and we can still borrow in the present condition, and our limit will go up if, as I said, we can export more and if we can collect more revenue. There was a question about Rohingya repatriation. We do appreciate, we do recognize the international effort, the regional effort for sorting out this issue. But in the meanwhile, we have a short-term and an immediate issue. It's a burden on us. And we must recognize the human response that the government had with respect to the Rohingya refugees. Particularly, it was Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina who thought in very strongly human terms that they are human beings who need a place to live until they can go back to their home. It is where the international community has to play an important role. I am not in a position to judge them, but if we look at the result, it has been continuing for too long, and we feel the pressure. Indigenous people, I guess here again we can claim a particular achievement. We have a concentration of indigenous people in the hill tracts area. In the 1996, when Sheikh Hasina was the Prime Minister, we did negotiate with the activist group there, and we established peace. Now, peace is something which grows every day. The demand for peace grows every day, the measures go every day, but the fact that those people laid down arms and they promised to go by the rules of the game, that is definitely an improvement. And interestingly, this was one peace negotiation which the government did on its own without any external assistance or without any external prodding. There was a question about research and capacity building. There is no doubt that we should enhance our knowledge, and enhance our knowledge which is practical and which can contribute to the problems that we have, that perhaps should focus on research on technology, innovation of technology, which is compatible with our capacity to use them. If it is too sophisticated, we may not be able to use that. If it is too low, there is no point in trying to do that. Now, I missed one or 2 points. One is the debt sustainable framework. China, in connection with the Belt and Road Initiative, China also had developed a debt sustainability framework. And that, to me, seems more explicit than the framework that World Bank and IMF use. This is not to say that the IMF World Bank framework is not important or not relevant. What the Belt and Road Initiative does is that it has been endorsed by about 28 or 30 countries which are participants in the Belt and Road Initiative. Secondly, it says that it specifies that the discount period is for 20 years. That is fixed. And we can play with that. The discount rate is not fixed because that is something which will vary over time. The criticism of that is, it says it is not mandatory. I mean, they could have used another word, it's flexible. The World Bank and IMF's framework also is flexible, adapted to the country condition and the evolving conditions. So it is flexible, and mandatory means also that it can be customized to the country situation, to the needs for effective implementation of the program. And the Belt and Roads Initiative is particularly on transportation infrastructure, which is essential for movement of goods and also of human beings. So that's an important thing that China has aimed at. SDG period is until 2030 or 2031. So it's a 15 years program. Now, the SDG of sustainability, that was possibly made popular by this, our common future, which was a UN commission headed by a former Prime Minister of Norway. The report said that we should meet our needs while keeping enough for the future generation. That's intertemporal equity. That is what the SDG wants to do. Now, there are some soft review of SDG, particularly by Stiglitz. Stiglitz says that, well, this has 16 or 17 goals and 169, 17 goals and 169 sub-goals or indicators. Now, if you take each of them separately, they don't matter. But if you put them, all of them together, the aggregate makes sense. And it has to be tailored to the country's specific needs. There was a seminar about 5-6 years ago where they identified 5 or 6 agenda which are important for all developing countries, which were infrastructure, connectivity, health, education. These are the 4, there were 1 or 2 more. If you look at Bangladesh, these are the priorities in Bangladesh development agenda. So we are on track, and so far we are one of those few countries, maybe 3 or 4, which have achieved the goals which are critical for us. So we are on track. Is there something else that I wanted to? Oh, I guess there was a question about leveraging aid with equity and education. Was that your question? Okay. If you look at the sectors and the functions for which aid is available, you will see that there's a lot available for social programs. So if social programs addresses the equity issues directly, that's one thing. Secondly, there are programs for education and training that gives us skill for employment. That's an important thing for which aid is available.
And as overall aid is increasing, it is possible for the government to take a program which it considers to be critical for the country, and there would be enough resources available to it. It is possible for us to mobilize that amount of resources. Jai Bangla, Jai Bangabandhu.
Thank you, sir. We are very much in time, actually. It is now the turn of chair of this session. May I take this honor to request Mr. M.A. Mannan MP, chair of this session and honorable chairman, Parliamentary Standing Committee on Ministry of Planning of Bangladesh. With your notes and remarks, you conclude this session.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My deep respects for the distinguished presence here, and also, of course, diplomats and other very senior people. I won't take long. I can't take long, in fact. It's a matter very close to our heart in Bangladesh. Development, unnayan in Bangla. That is the most important word for us at this moment, because we want a better life than we have now or we had in the past. For that, we have to materially develop, materially, in terms of roads and bridges and schools and hospitals and whatnot. And the way I see it, there are a lot of ways. I've heard a lot of distinguished people speak about various policy issues. I won't go into that area. Simply put, the way I see it as a very ordinary, conscious Bangladeshi national, we've got to work. Go to work, produce, save, and invest. There is no other way that I know of. For that, there are two aspects to the whole question. One, within the country, domestic peace and tranquility, domestic environment, domestic laws, fairness. The producers, the laborers, agriculturists, people who produce directly, for them a fair deal, for them fair compensation, and a rule of law, what is usually termed these days as governance. That's absolute essential minimum for us within the country. But we can't operate alone. It's an age of globalization. Even if we wanted to, we can't stay away. We are drawn into the globalized world. So what do we expect? We expect from a globalized world, from our point of view, we want a fair deal again. Just as we want a fair deal for our working people here, we want a fair deal for the developing countries, semi-developing countries, or backward countries. Issues are very detailed. I won't go into detail. There is no time for that. We would like to see that the countries who have developed by various means, we won't go into those questions now. In the past, we won't have those opportunities. Bangladesh can't have those opportunities, what European Union countries had or US had. So we are given a fair deal in terms of proper market access, not a giveaway, not a sort of not a dole. We work, we want to sell our products, and no barriers in that movement. Fair, proper, free. That is what we agreed in WTO. Unfortunately, WTO is now back. It's not functioning as it was earlier thought. So it's very clear. Some countries, up north, west, sometimes, on occasions, use policies, political strategies, which stand in our way of a fair export regime where we can earn our keep. Unfortunately, that is a fact that in my own ways I have seen in the present day world. So we expect that we seek international cooperation. We plead with the global community through the UN system so that injustices which are very, very
clear to all of us are addressed properly and settled. If that is done, I'm sure in Bangladesh, we have a very large number of working people. We are working within the country and abroad also. We will have an opportunity to produce and save and to develop ourselves materially. In terms of what I've been saying, there's another aspect to it, and that is my last point in my short intervention. Globally, or through WTO, UNCTAD and other agreements in the UN system, one aspect which has been neglected, which is very crucial to the whole system of global trade and exchanges, free movement of labor. While capital is allowed to move freely wherever it wants to at its own choice, labor is not allowed, unfortunately. And even technology, which is a human achievement, human family as a whole has achieved this, is also restricted, limited, and diverted politically to areas or to occasions where it pays for the technologically rich country. So these are my very ordinary, simple intervention at this stage. I would like to thank once again Department of Development Studies of Dhaka University and Bonik, Barta, good friend of mine, of course. Hanif is here, I'm sure. So for both these organizations, I hope this is not the last, this is the first. Many more occasions, Professor Tumir, you will have to invite us and share with your wisdom. Thank you very much. Good evening.
Thank you very much, distinguished panelists. We are really grateful for your presence and for your intervention. Thank you. I would like to invite our colleagues just to have a photo with this esteemed panelist. Please, quickly, please join us with books. So it's a kind of, yeah, please quickly. Day has been very long, so it's time to close the proceedings. Please, dear colleagues, please join us with the photo.
So this is 50 years of nation building, so we'll just launch it right now. So can we just keep it like this? Like this.
Okay. We stand up. No. Maybe we sit because we have the colleagues down there.
No. এটা আগে নিন। আগে নিয়ে নেন। কারণ এইটা তো ওইটা বসে নিলে হবে না।
ওকে।
দাঁড়াইলে ভালো হবে।
ঠিক আছে।
জি, মামুন ভাই।
Okay, all right. Go ahead. Photo, quick photo. Thank you. Let's sit for the group photo, please. One more time, right? Just take two more time.
To stand again, I'm sure.
Thank you all. It was really indeed a pleasure to welcome and have our excellencies. Now I would request our Master of Ceremony to conclude this session. Okay. Tomorrow we'll start our academic sessions at 9:15 sharp. Okay? So there would be 9 sessions. Thank you all.
নমস্কার, কেমন আছেন? হ্যাঁ, এখন আমার কথা শুনতে হবে। Okay, so me being the master of ceremony needs to sign it off, but however, I need to say the name of one of our distinguished panelists who we thought that he has not been there, but he was always been there. This is my responsibility to tell you. We had Dr. Zhang Zhongjian, Dean and Distinguished Professor of Tianjin University of China. I'm glad that you are here, sir. Take all my pranam for you there. Moving on, I present all my gratitude to all the distinguished guests and everyone. Can I have a little bit of your, what will I say, attention towards me? I am the master of ceremony. I'm just thinking that, oh my God, what is happening over here? These big minds, these master minds, I will be the master of ceremony of them? This can never happen. But however, as I always present such shows, that's why I'm over here, life could be more productive. We're talking about development over here. Life could be more productive if all of us could think like that. So we hope to do more good for us. Moving on, we will be moving on for the next day on May 6th, and there will be some technical sessions and a panel discussion. So you guys need to come tomorrow as well. So till then, you guys need to be good enough with all your energy for tomorrow. As I'm Antara Chaudhary signing off for today, and till then, take care, stay tuned.